Hi everyone, we're the designers of Gangster Britannia, and this video is to take you through the rules of the game. So I'm Dan.
My name's Joel.
I am Chris. Great guys, today we're going to talk about Gangster Britannia. It's a gang themed game. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour and 15 to play. 3 to 5 players.
So here we have the 5 gangs you can play as in the game. They're 5 historical gangs of the UK, some of which you may know, such as the Peaky Blinders and the Cray Twins, and others may be quite new to you.
So each gang has their own player aid, and the player aid is shown here. And what you do for each round is you follow the banners along the player aid, starting at decide turn order and going all the way around, finishing at the police. You're going to do that 3 times, 1 for each round. And at the end of the 3rd round, the person who has the most money will win the game.
Alright, so now we're going to talk about what each player starts with. You've got your player aid, which is your chosen gang. You've got your gang meeples. Each of these is 1 mob. You've got your £10,000 in starting capital, your 5 reusable deal cards, and 5 reusable deceive cards.
So here you can see our game board showing the 5 cities involved in the game. We've got London, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool and Glasgow. To the right hand side you can see our intel cards. We have 1 pack per round of the game. We've got our city cards, we've got our upgrade cards, a central bank, a game die, and to start the game each gang starts with 1 mob in their home city as displayed.
Okay, so you're all set up, you've got your board ready and cards ready, and you're ready to start the first round. So what you do is you go back to your player aid, and you're going to follow your player aid through bit by bit. Now the first thing you do is decide turn order. So in the first round, that's done by a dice roll. So you all roll the dice, and the person with the highest number will go first, and then you follow in a clockwise turn order after that. In the later rounds, it's done differently, but just in this first round, you do it via a dice roll. An important mechanism of the game is intel cards. And what intel cards are secret information that each player gets that tells them what's going on the board and in the game. So every single player in turn order is going to take an intel card. Now an example intel card is here. So this intel card says gain 7,000 if you have the most mobs in this city. Now this is a good card. It could equally be a bad card. It could say something like lose 7,000 if you have any mobs in this city, or lose a mob if you have any mobs in this city. Every single player is going to take an intel card, and they're also going to take a city card. So you're going to have 1 city card and 1 intel card. Now the intel card is secrets. Only you know what that says. But the city card is face up, so everyone can see what city your intel card is referring to. So in this case, everyone's going to see you've got a Birmingham card, and they're going to know something's happening in Birmingham, but only you're going to know what that actually is. And on a simple level, if people are moving lots of mobs into Birmingham, then that would indicate that there's a good card, that person's got a good card, because they're moving all their mobs there. If they've got a bad card, they would be moving all their mobs out of Birmingham. And that's what it'd be on a simplified level, but you really don't want to reveal what your card is by how you're playing. You kind of want to mislead other people.
So now we've come to the placement phase of the round. So each gang takes it in turn to place 1 mob in a city of their choice based on that turn order decided at the start of the round. So for example, if the penny mobs were placing first, they may choose to move into Manchester. The High Rip gang may choose to bolster in Liverpool. The Peaky Blinders might join the penny mobs in Glasgow. And again, the Crays might bolster in London.
Now we move on to the movement phase. In this phase, each gang gets to move up to 1 mob from 1 city to any other city on the board. Movement is carried out in turn order. And we've built a little scenario here where you might want to see why certain gangs are moving and why they may not want to move. So for example, the Cray Twins may want to move to Manchester because they've got a bad intel card relating to Liverpool, and so they want to get out of there early. Or a different scenario would be the Peaky Blinders moving from Glasgow to Birmingham because they want to be the strongest gang in Birmingham. Likewise, possibly the High Rip gang in Liverpool wants to stay put in Liverpool because it's a secure territory.
Next up is deal or deceive. So this is another major mechanism in the game, and this will happen in cities where there are more than one gang. So in this case, Birmingham only has the Peaky Blinders, that won't do deal or deceive. Manchester only has the Cray Twins, that won't do deal or deceive, but the other cities have multiple gangs, so you will do deal or deceive. And ultimately what this is you're deciding in this city what relationship you want to have with the other gangs. Do you want to form a friendly relationship, or do you want to have a sort of war relationship with them? Now, you do this by deciding what card you want to play, and you've got two options. You either choose to deal, or you choose to deceive. And this is done secretly. So if both gangs decide to deal, what that means is you've got a good relationship in whatever city you're in, and you're sharing the spoils of that city, and that means you get £3,000 each as an immediate payout if you both decide deal. But if one of you decides to choose deceive and the other one decides to deal, then the deceiver has essentially screwed over the other gang and will steal a mob from them. So the dealer will lose a mob and the deceiver will gain a mob. But if both gangs decide to deceive, then they both lose a mob. So what that means is you're really only wanting to deceive if you're confident that the other gang you're with is going to deal. Otherwise, you'll both lose out.
So let's go through a few more scenarios for the deal and deceive phase. We can see we've got two contested cities here. So if we start with London, we have it contested between the Crays and the High Rip gang. Here the Crays have played a deal card and the High Rip gang have chosen to deceive. So in this scenario, the High Rip gang will gain one mob and the Crays will lose one mob. As we move to Liverpool, you might see it's a little bit different. We have three gangs involved. So here we have the High Rip gang, the Scuttlers and the Penny Mobs. Here the High Rip gang have chosen to deceive. Now, if the other two gangs have chosen to deal, the scenario will play out just like it did in London, and the High Rip gang will choose who they steal one mob off. However, here the Scuttlers have also chosen to deceive, with the Penny Mobs choosing to deal. In this scenario, the dealer stays out of conflict and both deceivers lose one mob. So the High Rip gang and the Scuttlers lose a man, leaving only the Penny Mobs behind. This mechanism is exactly the same, whether there are 3, 4 or 5 gangs in the same city.
As a quick recap, we've decided turn order, we've taken out all of our intel cards, we've placed a mob each, we've moved up to one mob each, and now we've deal and deceived as well. This is now repeated for the next couple of phases where we place one mob, move one mob, and deal and deceive again, before we move on to showing the intel cards that we picked right here.
Okay, so you're coming to the end of the round, and what you're going to do now is you're going to reveal your intel cards that you've had secretly in front of you this whole time. This is done in turn order like everything else in the round. So we have all the intel cards here. This was doing a 3-player scenario, and this person's going first, and then it's following clockwise around. So let's reveal the intel card. So in this case, anyone who's in Birmingham will lose one mob if they have any mobs here. So that means this person will immediately lose a mob. And that's unfortunate because if you look at the card they were holding, it said gain 7,000 if you'd have the most mobs in this city. So if he hadn't lost his mob, he would in fact have the most mobs in his city. But unfortunately, he doesn't gain that bonus because he's no longer in Birmingham. And then the third one is Liverpool. Gain 7,000 if you have any mobs in this city. So in this case, everyone has flocked to Liverpool, knowing that there's a good card there, and everyone in this city would gain 7,000 each.
So now we move into the payout phase of the round. And we'll move around the cities at the board and do the payout. So starting in London with the Crays, we can see that the Crays have a total of 4 mobs on the board, so that's 4,000. Had they had dominance in their home city, they would have had an additional 3,000, but they don't. They are sharing it with the High Rip gang. Next we move to the Peaky Blinders, Birmingham, so they have 3 mobs across the board. Again, they do not have dominance, so it's just 3,000 for them. We have the High Rip gang, who don't occupy any in their own city, but they have 3 mobs, so again 3,000. And finally we have the Penny Mobs, who do have dominance in their home city of Glasgow, meaning they get the 2,000 plus an additional 3,000 for that dominance, taking it to a total of £5,000.
In turn order, each gang gets to pick an upgrade. There are free upgrades and there are purchase upgrades. Now the free upgrades are available to those gangs who are either the dominant gang in the city or the only gang in the city. So in this case, the Peaky Blinders are the only gang in the city. They get a free upgrade of any value. The Penny Mobs up here in Glasgow, they're the dominant gang in the city in Glasgow. So they get a free upgrade up to the value of 3,000.
What will happen is each player in turn order will then get their free upgrades and then have the option to purchase one extra upgrade up to a total of 3 upgrades.
At this point in the game, Britain is riddled with crime. However, luckily, we have the police raid to crack down on gang activity. The police sweep the cities of the UK, affecting the city with the most mobs in total. In this scenario, London is that city with 5 mobs, and therefore gangs with mobs in that city lose mobs down to a single mob remaining.
After the police raid, this round is over. And what you'll do is you will return all your city cards back to the city card pile. You'll return all your intel cards back to the intel card pile. And you'll get ready for the next round. And what you'll do in that case is you'll actually decide the turn order of the next round. And that is done by choosing the weakest player on the board in terms of number of mobs. So in this case, you've got the Cray Twins with 3, Peaky Blinders with 3, High Rick Gang with 2, and the Penny Mobs with 2. So there's actually a tie, and the player with the least amount of money out of these 2 tied gangs would decide the turn order for the next round. And what they would do is they would pick the person they want to go first, and then it would follow clockwise. Now, in general, it's good to go last in gameplay because you can watch what everyone else is doing. But in upgrades, it's better to go first, as you then get first pick of the goodies.
So we've now completed the first round of the game. At this point, the rounds 2 and 3 continue on, much like the first round, with the player with the most money at the end of the game ultimately winning. The second and third rounds are much like the first, however now we have the inclusion of the later round 2 and 3 intel cards, with the gearing up of higher penalties and higher bonuses, and secondly the inclusion of those upgrades bought by gangs throughout the game.